Thanks for joining us for the Broad Residency briefing for MBA and other graduate student career counselors. My name is Erin Keller, and I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment and Selection, and this is Dina Williams.
Hi everyone, my name is Dina Williams. I'm Deputy Director of Recruitment and Selection, so welcome.
In our short time today, we will cover what the Broad Residency is, what we do, and the benefit of working in education through the residency, who we're looking for, and the selections process. We will also end with the next steps. So before we get into details of the program, I want to cover what our organization believes in, the mission of our organization. And the Broad Center that runs the residency believes that leadership is critical to building and sustaining high-performing organizations that provide quality education for all students. And it's this belief that drives the Broad Residency program. The Broad Residency is a leadership development program, much like other leadership development programs that recruit on your campuses, where there is simultaneous job placement and intensive training. Where we differ is that we place participants into management roles in education. We have a starting salary of $85,000 to $95,000, similar and comparable to other leadership development programs that you're familiar with. We are just about to begin our 10th cohort of the program, and with over 90% of our alumni still working in education, we have a network of over 250 alumni working in more than 50 educational organizations nationwide. So what are the benefits to entering this work through the Broad Residency? The first is placement. We thoroughly vet and select our partner organizations for our residents. We place residents in 3 types of organizations: school districts, charter management organizations, and state departments of education. In these organizations, residents take on central office operations roles in departments similar to those outside of education, strategy, finance, HR, operations, and also roles that are similar to those that you'd find in other industries. They're project managers, functional directors. We also place them such that they have high visibility within the organization, often reporting to the superintendent or another cabinet official. Another strong benefit to our program is our professional development. The core of this professional development is 8 quarterly sessions that take place across the country, where we bring the whole cohort together to learn about the context of urban education and how to apply the best organizational practices from the private and public sectors. The Broad Center is currently in the accreditation process, actually, so that in the next couple of years we will be able to offer a master's degree in educational leadership for those that complete our program, and this speaks to the rigor of our training. We also provide additional support structures as well. Residents are part of peer advisory teams, have a staff advisor. They also participate in annual 360 feedback that informs work that they do with an executive coach. But perhaps the strongest benefit of doing the work through Broad is the network. As I said before, we have a strong and growing network of professionals working in education management. We get these alumni together for reunions, for regional gatherings, as well as functional area events. Last year, all of our network members working in human capital got together in Tampa to study what they were doing at Hillsborough County schools in the area of teacher effectiveness. As our alumni move around to different organizations, the network becomes extremely important. We have a team at the Broad Center that provides career guidance and connects folks with different job opportunities. We also have an alumni community for our alumni that allows them to network, share resources, and request expertise. And it's those 3 pieces, the placement, the professional development, and the network, that are the strongest reasons to work in education through the Broad Residency. Now I'm going to pass it off to Dina, who will tell you about who our residents are.
All right, fantastic. So as Erin is sort of laid out, the Broad Residency has been identifying and placing strong managers into the public education space for the past 10 years. And our requirements and selection criteria are driven by the needs of our partner organizations and ensure that our residents are able to make a lasting impact in education. So first, we do require U.S. citizenship or permanent residency. And we know that there are many qualified and talented international graduate students out there who would be interested in doing this work, but our partners who are school districts, etc., are not able to sponsor work visas. So we do have this requirement. Second, we do require an advanced degree. Many of these organizational the organizations that we partner with have a difficulty attracting candidates who have advanced degrees, who really have these great transferable skills and relevant experiences that would benefit their organizations. And so that's where we come in to help them to find, tap into that particular talent pool. And then finally, we require a minimum of 4 years of full-time work experience. And this does not include internships. The average number of years work experience of our residents is about 8 years, but the range is pretty wide, from about 4 years all the way up to about 18, 20 years. And these individuals have the experience to manage or partner with colleagues who in many cases are more experienced than them or generally more knowledgeable about education. So really they're able to leverage the experience that they have, their professional experience, to be able to come in and be able to work effectively with these different groups of people. And as well, through our program, we place residents in pretty high-level roles that Erin talked about that would take them much longer to get into if they were trying to go through more traditional routes. But once again, it's that management experience that they have that's really important and valuable to these organizations to drive change in education. This past year, we received over 2,000 resumes and ultimately have a class of 51 residents. Although our selection process is rigorous, if a candidate is denied, we will provide feedback and encourage them to reapply in a year or two. And out of this year's cohort, about 27% of them were in fact reapplicants. So to give you a sense of who our residents are, I'll share a little bit about their educational and professional backgrounds, as well as what they're currently doing now within their partner organizations. And I'll use our current class as an example. So let's start off with education. As I mentioned, we have a class of 51 residents in what we call TBR 2012. And so that's the Broad Residency class of 2012. Over 70% of them have either an MBA, MPP, or MPA. And the rest of the graduate degrees include Masters in Education, Engineering, Geological Sciences, a JD degree. And we're continuing to recruit candidates from this wide range of educational backgrounds, which really brings nice diversity to the field of education. And this year we found that the number of residents who came straight out of grad school was about 20%. So there certainly are opportunities for people to come, for graduates to come straight out of a grad degree. So I mentioned that average number of years of work experience is 8 years. And those candidates who have less than that, we still find that they have very strong experience. And in particular, we look for people who have 3 things. 1, strong project management skills. Number 2, experience working in very complex organizations, working with various stakeholders across different groups and departments, and so really those strong navigation skills to be able to navigate those organizations. And then 3rd, a strong passion to make a difference in their career. So residents do not have to have a background in education to be competitive for this program, because that's where our professional development comes in, and our programming will allow them to overcome that hurdle and develop a strong foundation in education. And in a moment, I'll share with you some profiles of current residents, but I want to share with you just a couple things about about candidates who might not be quite right for the program. Oftentimes, you run across graduate students who are former teachers or who have worked primarily in analyst roles. And unless they have at least 2 years of formal management experience, they won't be quite ready for our program, but we certainly will encourage them to gain more experience and then come back at a later time and apply. So as a result, many of the candidates who we see on campus will not apply at that particular time, but will keep us in mind. And maybe 3 or 5 years down the line, they'll remember us seeing us on campus or know a classmate who was in the program, and at that point in time decide to apply. So our campus presence and brand awareness is really important to our recruitment strategy. So now let me share a few profiles so you'll know of some candidates who are in fact a good fit for the program. So first we'll start off here with a couple of residents who are on the lower end of our work experience range. Gabby Ramos has 4 years of work experience, and she was a TFA special ed teacher and then went on to Barclays in their finance group, where she developed global and regional sales and marketing strategies. She recently completed her MPP at the Harvard Kennedy School and will be a priority project manager at the Connecticut State Department of Education. And then Cynthia Leonard has 5 years of work experience, and she spent her career at A.T. Kearney as a management consultant. And in that role, she advised Fortune 500 companies on business model and process transformation and various marketing strategy projects. She recently completed her MBA at UCLA Anderson and will be a strategic planning manager at Green Dot Public Schools. And both of these residents knew that they were interested in education during their graduate programs and actually did internships through Education Pioneers. And as they begin their full-time experiences in education, they will both be able to leverage their strong project management skills and as well that commitment to doing this work. So Education Pioneers is not a required pipeline, but it is something that we do see many of our residents doing. So next, really, I'll talk about that 8 to 9 years work experience range, and that really is our sweet spot. We find the majority of our candidates are in that range. So I'll talk about a couple people here. So Kevin Mem has 8 years of experience in marketing. He started off as a brand manager and then progressed to finally becoming portfolio management for the ThinkPad at Lenovo. And he's going on to become strategic project manager at Prince George's County Public Schools. And Jenna Conway has 9 years work experience and joins the residency after a career in the public sector. First as a domestic violence counselor with the New York Police Department, and most recently as director at New York City Housing Authority. But in both these cases, they both have very strong project management skills, experience working in pretty complex organizations, navigating through that, working with different people, and will both leverage those experiences as they move into their new roles. And just to get a sense for the diversity of industries that are represented in our pool. So here you'll get a sense of the different public and private sector companies that are represented in our current cohort. This is important because you'll see that residents are able to bring these various experiences and best practices from these different industries and roles to their work in education, and as well as they participate in this cohort experience with the other residents, they're able to bring those experiences to their cohort as well. And then finally, I'll just share with you a little bit about what they do. So we'll see about 80% of our current residents are working in either strategy, operations, or human capital roles. And many of the roles that you see here on the right side are roles that you would typically expect to see of someone who's at that mid-career point in their professional careers. Director of Operations, COO, Director of Human Resources. As I mentioned earlier, the residents are able to secure roles at this level because of their participation in our program. And oftentimes, if they were to go through more traditional career paths, they would not be able to get to that level, that high level within the organization so quickly. And then as well, as we mentioned earlier as well, we provide the support then for them to make that transition successfully. So with that, I'll hand it back to Erin, who will talk more about our selection process.
Thank you. Excellent. So what is our selections process? As you can see here, it is a long and multi-stage process with our resume submission opening up every September and our final organization interviews happening in May of the following year. So for this year, September of 2012, and the final organizational interviews happening in May of 2013. Candidates that are advanced past the resume stage are invited to apply and submit an application. Those that are advanced past the application are invited to do a first-round interview. The majority of these are done on phone or Skype, but we do have a handful of in-person interviews that we conduct in select cities in November and in January. Those that are advanced past that first round come to second-round interviews in person in March, and we hold those in Los Angeles and in Chicago over weekends. And after that, those that are advanced go to final interviews with partner organizations. And those are the final stage, the final step, and when candidates accept an offer from a partner organization, that's when they become a resident. And the program starts in July with an orientation, and they often start work at that same time. One thing you'll just notice before I move on is that our process happens a little bit later than a lot of your on-campus recruiting processes happen. And that's just one thing to keep in mind. As we all know, graduate students are a little anxious about getting their jobs all together. You guys know better than anybody. So just one thing to keep in mind, that our process does happen a little later. And it is in some reasons why alumni are a better kind of target audience for our program. So what are some of the next steps? The first is you can help us by spreading the word about our program, encourage both your second-year students and alumni to apply. Can also consider including us in some of your different events on campus. We have both alumni in different cities that can participate potentially, as well as the recruitment team can come and participate if you're having social sector education networking or industry nights or hosting regional events with your alumni, things of that nature. We'd love if you reached out to us and see if we could participate in some way. The second is that we will follow up this webinar, and we'll send you both the final selections process, how to request brochures, and a link to the recording of this webinar. And lastly, just reach out to us with any questions you have. You can see Dana and my emails down there, and they'll also be in the follow-up email. So just feel free to reach out with any questions. We'll love to jump on the phone with you and talk about how we can best serve your students and your alumni. And with that, I will open it up for questions. Thanks so much, and have a good day.